This conference will now be recorded.
Hi all, hi Harold.
Hi there. So we now have a quorum. I'm going to start.
Yep.
Aileen, if you can just add anybody else who comes on, I won't stop doing. Oh, James is on. So we really, hey guys, this is good. Okay, you're recording?
Yes.
Good day. This is Harold Watson, Chairman of the Planning Commission and the Housatonic Greenway Complete Streets Subcommittee. Due to the coronavirus 19 pandemic, we are conducting this regular meeting on gotomeetings.com on Wednesday, December 1st, 2021 at 12 noon. The quorum for this meeting is 6, and I will now call on the following elected members to speak up as present. Karen Burke.
Here.
Tom Dillon. Ellen Frame. Christopher Green.
Here.
Oh, good. Hi, Chris. Michael Masisco. Nels Pearson.
Here.
George Parham. Jennifer Sheldon.
Here.
James Simon.
Present.
Myself, Harold Watson. And John Staley.
Present.
And I missed one person, who is Joe Garrix.
Here.
Okay, so we have a good meeting today. Thank you, guys. We also welcome Susmitha Tata, our town planner, and Aileen Marsh, our heroic recording secretary. Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to remind everyone to raise their hand if they would like to be recognized by the chair and wait to be recognized and called on each and every time throughout the meeting. Please identify yourself by name each time you would like to speak. This is per Governor Lamont's executive order, which allows us to conduct virtual meetings. The public is free to listen, but may speak only at the invitation of the chair. With that said, I call to order this special session of the Stratford, Housatonic Greenway and Complete Streets Subcommittee of Planning. The first item on the agenda is our call to order. Can someone give me will someone please call our meeting to order or second it? I'll call it to order. Someone second it.
You don't need it to be
Second.
second.
I don't need it? Okay. All in favor, yes. We need someone to give me our approval of our minutes of October 6th.
Motion to approve the minutes. Christopher
Someone
Green.
second that?
I'll second that.
Nels, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody opposed? Okay, so that passes. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask Susmitha to give 2 reports, our Greenway Phase 2 status and our Complete Streets Phase 1 status.
Sure.
The floor is yours.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Regarding the project status, they are with the DOT for the review. And last month we submitted our 90% designs and we received comments back from the Division of Traffic. And our consultants addressed those comments and sent them back to DOT. This is our Complete Streets Phase 2, but like if you can remember, in the last meeting I mentioned that DOT is combining reviews for Phase 2 Greenway and Complete Streets because of the West Broad Street and Main Street intersection that is owned and operated by DOT. Right now, they needed us a letter from State Historic Preservation Office stating that there are no historical and archaeological impacts because of this project. And we did submit our materials for review to SHPO, as they're called. And they sent us back a letter saying that they have no objection to this project, which was communicated to DOT. So I guess we are in the penultimate step, and any time between now and December 31st, we should be hearing back from DOT on proceeding to the 100% design stage. Also, we requested a project grant extension from Office of Policy and Management. Our grant was supposed to expire on December 10th. We received an additional 3-month extension until March 10th, so that we are not out of compliance with the Office of Policy and Management's grant that was awarded to prepare the preliminary design drawings. So as of now, this is all with DOT, and we are just waiting for DOT to respond back and say that we have fulfilled all the requirements and they're satisfied with the drawings as presented, and that we can proceed for bidding starting next year.
And that is concerning the phase 2 status. That's the Main Street complete streets.
Phase
Or is
2
that both of them?
primarily town roads, but only that intersection of West Broad and Main is DOT owned. So once the town engineer gets a nod from DOT regarding that intersection, he can proceed to bidding for that project as well.
Okay, so we actually should see them both happen at the same time.
Yes.
I have a question, Susmitha. I'm on Stratford Rotary, and they are looking for a project for this coming year. And they've expressed interest in supporting the Greenway, the swale that was originally across up north of the train station that the DOT did not want to deal with because they did not want to deal with maintenance. But I raised that issue with the Rotary, and they might be amenable to taking on that project with simply a sign that says Stratford Rotary supports this, and using their high school Rotary kids to do maintenance on it. If you think that that's something that could be discussed without disrupting the whole project, I would like to see if we could find some way to bring that up with the state.
Sure, we can certainly discuss that offline, one-on-one, on how they can help us. Regarding Complete Streets Phase 2, I'm working with regional COG planners to prepare an RFP for consultants, because we do have the budget to proceed with the planning of that project north of Barnum Avenue until Paradise Green. For Greenway Phase 3, which is going to be by Ferry Boulevard or Housatonic Avenue, we need funding to do advanced planning. And since we don't have the budget for this year, we might request it for next year's budget whenever that is announced. In the meantime, if Rotary wants to get involved,
Well, there is an area there that is a wetland that on the original Greenway map, we had held that aside for kind of a pocket park. So maybe that's something that we could discuss still.
Okay.
I could talk with you. I just wanted to bring this up for the committee so that you guys know that it's a possibility. They're looking at like about $10,000 for a project that they would contribute. They're looking for it to match that from other areas.
That's all at my end.
That's it. So we've covered both the Greenway Phase 2 status and the Complete Streets Phase 1 status. I guess at this point, I will open this up for anybody to respond to any of this. I just want to also give you the last meeting we talked about people coming up with ideas for projects that they would like to become a subcommittee on under our subcommittee Greenway. If there's something that people have a specific interest. So I'm going to go around and see if I can pin anybody down with some areas that they've been thinking about. My assumption is that you guys have gone online now to the planning department and read up on the Greenway and Complete Streets documents. So if you have some familiarity, you should have more questions. So let's go around. I will start with John Staley because I know he loves doing research. John, you're muted.
I planned it that way.
Okay,
Excuse
now
me,
you're back.
John, this is Karen. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can someone take the agenda off the screen so that I can see everybody better, if that's possible?
Yes.
If not,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
okay. But thank you. Great. Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, there's a few areas I'm interested in. The Shakespearean area, the districts, some of the land that goes across Stratford Avenue, I believe it is, and then also I believe it goes down almost to the Academy, right? Academy Hill, and then there's the bicycle paths, which we are we're lacking in so many areas. This is every towns around the states. I've sent Samantha areas from North Carolina, Charlotte area, with types of bicycle racks, lanes, and it's pretty common in many of the other states in the West and some South. So I think that's a priority for us to look at.
John, may I make a suggestion to you? We are ruled by, and Smith knows this really well, by the Bridgeport or the Fairfield County regional planning people.
Right.
So what I would love to see is someone on this committee say that they would be willing to start attending some of the meetings so that we do have someone, because right now the only person that goes to these are Smitha and the mayor. And I know that can't be their primary focus, but if we had someone who was willing to go to these meetings and report back to us, we also would increase our visibility with the regional planners in terms of what we hope to be seeing done.
All right, well, is this the Bridgeport Regional Council?
Yes.
Because I believe Joe Vexey, previous planning commissioner, was on that.
So then you have a
Yes.
great mentor to work on. I'm going to suggest that you put your name in for that in the coming year. Now I'm going to go to Karen next. Karen, you're muted.
I attended the Stratford, the Shakespeare planning group that still hasn't been able to get in front of the council. And I was thinking about, because they were discussing it, getting some kind of walking path, bike path from the Stratford Shakespeare Theater grounds all the way down to the beach.
May I
And
interrupt you for 1 second? We do have that on the Complete Streets project that is the local town version, the Greenway version.
So-
we have it going down along the road that runs, I can't remember the name of it right now.
Correct.
We have it running down to the center of the Shakespeare property. We're not doing more than that because we don't know what is going to be built there, and we don't want to interfere. But we have included from the historic plaque that's there. So that is part of the side trail that goes off.
But my question is, if the engineering plant ever gets fixed or whatever was happening with that piece of property, are we thinking about running it literally along? I know it goes out towards the street and down towards the beach. I've taken it many times. But are we thinking about going directly from the Shakespeare Theater property all the way along the water down?
No, because we don't have right of way where the condos are. We will have to come off onto Elm Street.
Okay.
And then we come back down Birdseye, where there is a plan long term, and there is no working project right now. Long term, the existing Greenway,
Yes.
you'll notice there's a T that goes off it
Yeah.
towards the Army plant. That is where there needs to be a slight bridge built, because that's a real waterway there that goes through there. But once that gets done and the Army plant gets cleaned up, the town owns a 200-yard or 200-foot right-of-way right on top of the dam, the dike that's there now.
Okay.
That's already been planned. That's been in the planning for the last decade.
Great.
So that the trail will come to there ultimate long term, it would then go across to Steppens and cross over to the south or the north end of Short Beach with
Okay.
another slight little bridge. But all of this is dependent upon 2 bridges that will have to be funded.
Okay.
Mr. Watson?
So if you look at the plans, you will see it in the 2009 plan. Yes,
Okay.
sir, John.
Thank you, Karen. The opposite direction, the planning commission had been talking about, where are we going from the corner of Elm Street, going straight across or taking the right for bicycle and Greenway, because there was concern of the traffic and everything going on, and we'd have to go up to one of the back roads and come back out. And how did we get across?
The current, this will change, as Smith had mentioned, the Ferry Boulevard path,
Right.
which is actually our East Coast Greenway path. But currently, the local town Greenway, not the complete streets, the local town Greenway comes across Broad Street, comes down Elm Street to Stratford Avenue,
Right.
goes across Elm Street, and makes a cut, a side loop off into Shakespeare land. But then it continues on Elm Street on both sides to Birdseye. At
But to go
Birdseye,
to the
it picks up our
intersection,
existing pathway, which is going to be disrupted because we've got to put a dike around the sewage plant. So at some point, it's going to be elevated with the dike that goes in there, but that's going to take several more years.
Well, I was talking about our discussions we had on Elm Street, where it meets Stratford Avenue, taking the right, possibly going straight. That hasn't, and that hasn't been
Going straight on Stratford Avenue, you mean?
toward 95 and Devon Bridge.
Are you talking about the traffic there, John?
Excuse me?
Oh, I understand. John, what is
We had conversations about it.
the latest, Smith, she's talking about phase 3 of complete streets, and that is to move another section of Greenway onto Stratford Avenue that becomes Ferry Boulevard. So that will come across, some of that will be on road because there's a huge right-of-way there. It then probably, tentatively, will go over to Housatonic Avenue and cut through the neighborhoods up there, where we own a right-of-way that takes us back onto Ferry Boulevard.
And we don't have the DOT.
Excuse me?
The DOT. That was some concern.
Well, the DOT has, I think, all of this is negotiable, but the DOT, I believe, is signing off on going across Veterans Boulevard to taking the roadway across there, at which point then we're going to have to figure out what we're doing. There's talk
Okay, so
of
this is in the works. Thank you. That's good.
yes, it is. There's a lot of discussion happening, and this is where Smith can really be helped because she has to negotiate with both the DOT and with the state, or the federal and the state. Who did I not get to? Joe, you want to speak up next?
Sorry, I didn't do my homework, Harold. I'm not prepared to comment now.
That's okay. Nels. You guys are very good at muting yourselves. Unmute yourself when you speak.
Right, yeah, no, my question, one of mine was about what is currently there behind the Army engine plant. I haven't been able to get in there to see it. I've ridden the existing small Greenway that you can get to by DeLuca Field. But I guess you're saying that there needs to be a bridge over a short stretch of water there. And then also, does there have to be an agreement on the full, rehab of the Army plant in order
Jeff,
to do this? Or can this be done without that having be fully settled?
Let me give you a little background. The reason that the trail currently rides along Main Street is that whole property is still federal property. So we have secured from the Army that we will have a right of way because that is what state requirements say, that the public has a right to the shoreline. So
Yeah.
that is, I think, that is part of any development that's going to happen there, that we will have that right of way with a greenway there. I think that is the most critical thing that Stratford could have, because that will bring in people from everywhere, because it's a beautiful ride once it's done.
So, excuse me, Nels, for interrupting. So Harold, I'm just going to piggyback on Nels' question, because this was sort of my question. So when, I understand we have to bypass the condos, but when and if the Army engineer plant gets figured out, are we moving from Main Street and moving that path along the waterfront? So we would take it off Main Street and move it through the Army plant along the water up to the beach.
Yes, ideally, that is what we would want to do.
Thank you.
If you look at the existing 1999 Greenway that was built there, it has the signage that actually is welcoming to the neighborhood. So that's intended to be a welcome to the greater trail. But what I want to do is just make sure we don't lose our complete ride along Main Street for as long as possible, because it's going to be under pressure for developers when they get that land. So that's something that we need to continue to work on. But ultimately, the town planning says that the trail should be along the water. If you look, there's a spit that goes out that already is designed. It already has power, has electricity. There's a gazebo that's supposed to go there. So you actually will be able to ride out onto the middle of the bay, almost a quarter of a mile, where you can actually sit and see Penobscot, a huge view of the water.
So that's what's indicated as SAEP and Pavilion on the map?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's excellent. I mean, I think that, as much coastline as we can secure,
And honestly,
not just the better, that becomes a foothold for the whole understanding of that area as central to Stratford. So yeah.
And that groin has been totally remediated. So what we're waiting for is the coastline along the Army property to be remediated. So we're looking at least 10 years. By the time they remediate the mud flats and then they remediate the land for the Army plant, it's going to be a long time. But that is the ultimate thing. I hope I'm around to see it, but that is really what's going to make Stratford have the best coastal views of any place along the shore.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it really will be something that we could make money off of just by the view. Nels, you were in the middle of did you have more comments?
Yeah, no, that was the main thing. I was just really interested in that particular section, and I'm if you need anything extra from me regarding that whole idea, I'm happy to do that. But
well, Nels, can I get you to take the research on this project of the current alternative route and the eventual route? And because those two things are going to have to be, like, they're doing all of this remediation on the Army engine plant, where there's a spit right to the far left of Short Beach, where that water comes in and out there. That's all getting remediated. That's where a bridge would go across, connecting up to Sniffin's Lane. But when they start remediating that, we need to be there to speak about it. This is what we want long term. So we need an advocate to become educated on the Army engine plant as it relates to both trails.
Right.
Yes, John. Again, you're muted. John, you're muted.
So it's been a while since this has been activated. The Greenway has been active and also very new to the combined subcommittee. But my question was the planning. So we could recommend something to the planning commission, and the planning commission. So this doesn't get pushed aside and lost. Can they send something to zoning or the council in reference to making sure something like that happens in the future.
Well,
It doesn't
John,
get,
I think that is what, when we reinvigorated this committee, that's what we're looking to do.
Right.
And honestly, we should just do it and send it to planning, zoning, and town council. That's within the realm of what we are able to do.
thank you.
Nels, will you sign on for that portion of the Greenway in terms of starting to do research?
Yes, I will, if somebody would just clarify for me where I would start with that, or what exactly I'm,
A lot of the
looking into.
document is actually up. You can actually find a lot of that information up online. I know Smith could help you, but we can do this offline. I can have a conversation with you about this.
Okay.
Let's go next. James.
Yeah, hi, Harold. I want to kind of glom onto an idea you had at a meeting or two ago, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, and try to map out the most dangerous intersections in Stratford as a way of kind of warning bicyclists and pedestrians and motorists. So let me just grab 2 minutes of everyone's time right now. We want enough years that the data makes sense, but not that it's outdated. So we want kind of a 5-year look at this, as opposed to a 1 year or 10 year or 20 year.
James, let me just ask Smitha one question. So Smitha, there is a hazardous intersection database that is updated daily that we have access to under your GIS system, I believe. I'm not sure. I saw it when I was working on Complete Streets, Charette, and all of that. And they printed out incredibly accurate maps of every intersection where there was either a pedestrian accident, a car accident, or a bike accident. So Jim, that information really exists. The problem is there's no one speaking about it. So it's not like you have to find the information. It's right there in the database. And I think Susmitha can find that for you. And you, because you're in town hall, probably have access to it. Susmitha.
Connecticut Department of Transportation has an accident database and a crash database. And then there is Travia, I think, that has bike data, which is building up pretty rapidly lately. I would be cautious in using any of these data because when I was working in New Haven and I was working with the crash data, somebody told me that the crash data is only updated when something is logged in as a complaint. And if something is, just a minor crash and people just resolve it amicably and they don't, really enter into that database. And so, I mean, everything comes with a flaw. No data set is perfect. But at the same time, it is worth, I like Jim's idea about revisiting the entire Greenway study, keeping in mind the current context of improvements and developments that have been coming up for approvals, and the current roadway configurations with Exit 33 being open now. There's a new challenge and opportunity there to connect. So I will request a funding. I'll submit a funding request on behalf of our department for Greenway study, which includes a segment by segment analysis for phase 3 by Ferry Boulevard or Housatonic Avenue, and a general conceptual look of other Greenway segments in the town. Also, I would like to bring to your attention that, starting next year, we will be starting our plan of conservation and development process, update process, because we have to amend our plan and adopt it by December 2023. So we only have 2 years to do that. I'm writing the draft RFP right now as we speak, and there will be that itself will take another 2 months to write the RFP, publicize it, interview consultants and hire a preferred consultant. But once we get a consultant on board, we can have a scoping meeting with all respective land use boards and commissions to actually nail down all the current and evolving issues that have to be part of the POCD besides what's already in there. in the previous plan or the current plan. So there are some issues like, you know, urban agriculture, like community gardens and farms and community kitchens that have no regulations right now. Maybe looking at marijuana, cannabis, looking at accessory dwelling units, looking at Greenway connections, all these, and you know, and many more could be our wish list of
May I
items
just
that we
add
could
one
include in
point
the POCD
to
discussion.
what you're saying, that
Mhm.
there's also, when we did the coastal resiliency plan for Stratford, we were very effective to get them to include the Greenway within their document. So every elevated area, every dike that is proposed in Stratford incorporates greenways into it. So that's an example of what, that is not in the POCD necessarily, but as the POCD gets rewritten, it behooves us to make sure that that information goes into the POCD so that it stays as part of our primary planning as it concerns the Greenway.
So I have this book on my desk from 2013, which is a draft inventory of all the conditions in the town, like a survey of residents and data on crashes and developments and everything. I might request the consultant to update this for 2021 to 2023 to, you know, have updated data and analysis of facts.
Smith, those are safety conditions?
Well, they have everything on all topics, on demographics, land use, transportation, zoning.
That's
So
the
I might
document that
ask
we
the
used on
consultant
Complete
to
Streets.
help us do this again.
Jim, that's the document that you need to look
Yes.
at. So go visit
Okay.
Nathan.
Well,
Smith,
Yes, John.
Samantha, is there a, you mentioned the GIS or the database, and that was sort of what your printout, what you just showed us is?
Yes, the consultant would be fairly easily able to map everything once he gets the data in an Excel format.
Can we have access to that?
There is a GIS, the previous consultant gave us PDF of maps, but they did not give us the raw data. And I don't think they mapped everything. They just, you know, primarily focused on concepts, vision, and land use for the most part. But, you know, moving forward, I can request the consultant to map everything that they, you know, update so that we have a visual representation.
We have access to that.
The
I don't
town,
have
does.
access to
John,
GIS
the
maps
town
and
does.
data right now.
Do we?
The town
DOT
has
will
access to that.
probably have it.
Or are we working with the town? We have
Yes.
access?
Yep.
So I would have to contact Samantha?
You'd have to contact Samantha.
Okay, because that's very important. And the minors are minor. I'm sure they have a benchmark which they go into hazard. And that would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
If you look in the Complete Streets document, there's a whole section that has all those tables of accidents, congestion, speed. There's a whole breakdown of those, but they're only related basically to the areas we were considering for part of the Complete Streets. So it's not the whole town. It's only in those areas.
We will be getting through the town, hopefully. And
The state has it for everything.
I'll contact you, Samantha.
Yeah, John,
Okay, now I'm gonna move on to Chris.
John, I don't have the maps with me, but DOT has a database and they probably have something on their website. I will look into it if you shoot me an email, and I'll try to send you that information.
So Smith, when I've tried to do it in the past, they essentially want me to pay a fee-based to get stuff out. And it's like $1 a page, so it's really expensive. You, as a town, you guys don't pay that because you have a mega purchase. So if there's a way you could get John through your portal, then it won't cost.
Okay.
So
Harold, let me pull some of this together. So I'm gonna try to do some planning between now and Christmas, and then, as I told you, in April my office slows down and I'll have time to kind of more work on this. We want to look at what other towns. We want to look at what. Let me hit 5 points. We want to see what other towns are doing. We're certainly not inventing this from scratch. Other people, I'm sure, have had most dangerous intersections or whatever. So I'll certainly inventory that. We want to do multiple years. I'm going to suggest 5 years, so there's enough data without it being that outdated. We have to handle the issue of volume. Of course, there are going to be more accidents on West Broad because there's just much higher volume there than there is in my District 8 neighborhood. So we're going to need some way of kind of, building in that variable. I'm sure the police department, it has to inventory every accident that they log, not just do it due to complaints. So I think there'll be multiple databases out there, and we're going to have to kind of decide which one or which several databases kind of to use. I would think we'd want information on bike accidents and pedestrian accidents and car accidents. So maybe I'm being ambitious, but I certainly would want to try to look at all of those. And then finally, let me just finish. I have a lot of experience in public relations, so just publicizing this at the end so it just doesn't collect dust on a shelf is important to me. That's it.
If you look at our Complete Streets policy, one of the things it asks is that we have a yearly report on what is being done for the Greenway Complete Streets. Now, that falls upon Susmitha and our town engineers. So neither one of them have time to do this. So this is where I'm saying that we could become a really valuable committee if we were to help John and Susmitha pull this stuff together. That becomes their annual report. It also, I think, will help build a real trust from John that he could bring us information and it's not going to just pile back up on him, because I know he's concerned about that with all the projects that he has to look at in town. So we need to make sure that we manage that in some way if we're going to be effective. Chris,
I like
you're
that
next.
a lot. That's also an argument that for a protocol that we can use every year. We can follow this procedure, then it's not just a one-off.
You're absolutely right. And there are, even under Complete Streets, there are examples of those reports of what you're looking for. Even within this document, there's a list of items that should be looked at. Chris, I'm trying to keep us moving so we can get out of here within our hour time frame.
Yeah, definitely interested in the conversations around maximizing the Greenway's path to the waterfront. In particular, and I mentioned this to you before, Harold, but for me, the corner of Elm and Ferry, instead using Shore Road to go to Bonds Dock where there's flooding, takes just a 6-foot elevated walkway that isn't even that long to make that path viable for bike and foot traffic. And it maximizes, again, that beautiful water view there. It's looking right across at the marsh at the Autobahn. So that's something. And then anything involving Housatonic versus Ferry. I live on Housatonic. I'd love to see, the bike path come down. Happy to be involved there. And then
there is at the end of Housatonic, there is a right of way that we own.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily turn. Susmitha knows this better than me, but
I'm right down that end of the street and talking to neighbors and stuff, trying to understand if it does go down Housatonic, does that basically mean there will be parking only on one side and the bike path on the other, basically?
We don't know that yet.
Okay, because Housatonic is wide enough for that.
Yeah. Depends how many complaints from the neighbors on Housatonic there are.
Well, living on this street, to me, if you move parking to one side, that would not create overflow in that neighborhood.
No.
There'd be enough space for a two-way bike path on one side, parking on the other. And I think it's something that already it's the trail that packs of bikers use.
Absolutely. I've taken group rides there. And it's one thing that none of our bike trails consider is multi-directional trails. Milford has started using them along their shore, where they're not putting one on each side of the road. They're putting one that is multi-directional on one side of the road. So that's something that we need to research. It was not allowed 2 years ago. The state changed their regulations to allow that. The DOT changed their regulations to allow multi-directional on one side of the road.
For Housatonic, it would make sense because it would allow for.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
It would cut our cost in half.
Yeah, and so there, I think it's great. And the other part of it is just, getting to Short Beach is great, but unlocking all of Lordship beyond that. Lordship is very bike friendly. There's a lot of no cars. So I'm talking about you know, without even if it's not marked out, but thinking about how if there is a path getting to Short Beach, what paths we're expecting people to go, even if those streets don't have bike lanes, they're so low traffic when you get out along the Sound, and they're beautiful views basically to go from Long Beach to Short Beach to Shakespeare Theater and then up.
Chris, if you go into our maps, like
Yep.
the 2009, 2013
Great.
maps, there are specific roads that were selected in Lordship.
Okay.
2 or 3 years ago, when I was doing a bike club for Stratford, I went out and hand painted them all.
I mean, literally, even
put arrows
without
on it
painting,
myself.
yeah, even just putting a sign for this is sort of the path of the Greenway. You know, when you get out into there, it's not safety issues. You know, my bike accident actually occurred at the corner. It was due to the construction there, but it was at the corner of Elm and Fair, or it was at the corner of Elm and Ferry, basically. And actually, I have a neighbor who has to ride to work on a bike. He mentioned that the way that they painted Ferry right now, they have on the white breakdown lane, right when you turn off of Elm onto Ferry, there's a small double line, even though it's white paint, cars late at night. He actually told me he had a car on the other side of that white double in his bike lane because he was in the breakdown lane biking because of the confusion there over the paint job, right at the corner of Elm and heading onto Ferry. I don't know when I get that sort of stuff, who should that go to?
What I would actually do is send that as an email to John Casey.
Okay. Thank you.
The town has a traffic commission. You may want to attend a traffic commission meeting and, explain your concerns before them.
I can take a picture of the paint and I can take a picture of the paint and email John, and then if I can, Harold, if you email me information about the next meeting or Susmitha, I can see if I can attend.
Chris, I'm gonna make another suggestion that you consider becoming Susmitha's person to help with the Housatonic Ferry Boulevard extension, because you actually have some link to the community, which is what she's going to need in terms of getting approval.
Yeah, I'm happy to push everybody on my street for this. I'm talking to them about it now and making them
all this
aware.
down?
Yeah, she is.
I love you. Keep going. Jennifer?
Yes, so I also did not do my homework, but I am happy to help with whatever you need, Harold.
Don't say that. Who have I missed? Who do I not see here? Joe Garrix.
Yes.
I'm going to assign you a project because you're in Lordship. Will you do basic research into all of the trails that were suggested for Lordship?
Sure.
They're all of them, with a few exceptions, are all on road. So all they are striping and signs. But it would answer what Chris is talking about, and then you will become the expert for Lordship, if that's okay with you.
Yes,
Harold,
it is.
Harold, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any, I'm on the same, Jim and I come from the same sort of background. Is there any way to publicize the potential bike paths, for instance, like Joe's going to look at what's proposed for Lordship, and publicize them so people can start looking at them and start riding them?
Yeah, I will, let me give you the answer to that. They're all in the documents that we have. Some of them have been superseded because of other choices. Some of them we'll never have the right of way, or the state will never allow us to do that. So we've had to find roundabout ways of getting there. Other places, nothing has signage or marking in Stratford, except for a little quarter-mile stretch. So we need to really look at that. But Karen, what you need to do is go online and start looking at the reports, and you will see it in the.
It's not just for me. It's
No,
for
no, I understand. What
yeah,
we,
so people
what
can say,
we
well,
need to do-
these are the routes that we're potentially thinking about, and they were,
Absolutely.
I think if we can get that out to the public, and that would have to come from town hall somehow.
The problem is,
oh, that's a nice walk. That's a nice bike ride.
the problem is that there is still resistance in communities that I know from the past. Some of the earlier members decided, let's just be quiet about this because we're going to have battles about every single choice before some of them are a decade off from getting there. So we have to be really strategic about what we want to put out in the public.
I understand.
Let me let Smitha knows about this well. So
Yes,
let me.
if you happen to have a student who can do GIS mapping, please connect them with me so we can create brochures on Greenway existing routes and new routes and possible historic locations and destinations in the town. I know what has to be done, but I just don't have the time to sit and do it myself. But if I can get a student to assist us with that, I would happily take them in and guide them in making this map. And we can put these brochures at multiple locations in the town, like Stratford Library, Stoling House, and other locations, so people can actually take a look at the brochure and use it as their guide to ride these paths using their bikes.
And Karen, it's why we have a reconstituted committee, for that
Yes.
very reason.
Yes, great.
We need to start doing that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say to you, why don't you step up and become our marketing person?
Yeah.
Which is nothing more initially than getting a map of the routes that we've considered and do them in red, yellow, and green. These are the ones we know we're going with. These are the ones we'd like to go with. These are the ones that we can't even think about for another decade.
So Smitha, you'll work with me on that?
Yes, sure. I mean, I would be happy to give you the description of requirements, like software skills that are needed. So maybe you and Nels can, publicize it in your respective academic fields and, just get me
this
some.
is something that Karen, Nels, and Jim, you have access to graduate students. This will be a great graduate student project.
I do not have access to graduate students, so.
Oh, you don't?
No. Just I'm undergrad only.
I don't have access to graduate students here necessarily either, but I think, there are students who would, we have, a lot of community engaged learning, sort of ideas around campus that this could work with. And I just would have to talk to people, who work in geography and town planning, urban studies, there is the possibility of undergrads being able to do it.
Well, if you could find someone.
It's not my field, so I don't know, but.
Yeah, it's not my field either, so, but I'm happy to look into it. I'm happy to do what I can.
So Smitha does not have the time to even consider this in her daily work. So something like this is going to get done. It's going to have to come through some hybrid that we help put together for that. John, you have your finger up.
Yes, hand now. Last question I really have is not to put more work on Aileen, or maybe you already have it. If you could list the categories of the members present and the assignments given to them, so that the overlapping, there's some overlapping, and we could email or communicate with each other also.
I think that's great, but this will give us a committee that people can actually start speaking with some authority. That really is good, because one person can't do it.
Yeah.
Jennifer, did I let you off the hook?
You did. You let me completely off the hook.
So what can we discuss with you? You work at the library, correct?
No.
You work with?
I work at a bank.
Oh,
you just see me all over town, Harold. That's all. That's why you think I work.
I'm sorry, I just see you everywhere.
No, that's okay. But I'm happy to do whatever you guys need. I think Chris was trying to ask a question, though. I want to make sure he has
Chris,
time to do that.
I think it was kind of piggybacking on the discussion about, in terms of, I think publicity is important, but being strategic with it is also important. So I think more than like offering all the different trails, like definitely as a committee, based on, like you said, some of these trails aren't possible because of DOT or whatever. Like if we are gonna look through and find all the ones, we should have a discussion maybe here to make sure. I would try to present a more unified vision of what that sample trail is gonna be than every little which way.
Definitely. We'll come back to the.
What I did when I started the Stratford Greenway Bike Club, And what we did was once a week, or in some cases during the middle of summer, twice a week, I literally would lay out a trail ride based on these maps, saying we're going to ride from Paradise Green to Long Beach. We're going to ride from the library to Bridgeport. So I took and created rides for people that used these future greenways as a means of educating people on them. That's something that was really interesting, and I got it up to about 25 people doing these rides. So that's something that the committee also should consider.
Even if it is just a separate thing of like local rides that are interesting, that's super cool, and it's a way to avoid making people worry about that before we really have a set plan. So that could be a cool way to promote this sort of biking culture. Absolutely, would be to have just suggested rides.
And that is another way to look at it. And then the ideal thing would be to take and make sure that every school has a route to the beach. I mean, you could say, Worcester, if you want to go to the beach, this is the way you go. Because then we would start, it might not be comprehensive, but at least we're starting to train people to look for that information.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we have 8 minutes left. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, did I miss anybody?
Nels wants to say.
I'm not letting you off the hook, though. So you better come next time. And Joe, I gave you an assignment. So next time you come with some idea, I think you could probably help Karen and Jim in terms of getting started on something like that. What we do need to have is someone who is going to start doing an initiative for public school kids, because that is a problem that always comes up, that we're always blamed for the hooliganism in our teenagers on their bikes. We need to address that in some kind of way, in a way that doesn't turn off all the kids, but also that we could start an education program. Because this past week, right around the corner from me on Birch Place and Main Street, there was another bicycle accident. So it's not something that's going to go away, and it's something that we've got to be able to say we're doing something about. And I think that will be what will allow the schools to come and stand with us, and the police, both to stand with us to actually increase our numbers of people supporting this. Yes, John.
I was just going to, as you finished, that would be something, education, that I would think our traffic division from our police department would do.
It is something they do, but they are not necessarily Greenway advocates. They have a whole, you know what I mean? They're safety advocates. So we need
right
to
now,
have
no Greenway.
Right.
No bike lane.
We need, that's part of the reason why we need a Greenway. You know, to hold them within a certain bound so that everybody understands. So I don't disagree with you, John.
You on the Greenway to go where they want to go. So there's other projects like Smith that we've talked about with bike lanes going down Broadbridge Avenue or wherever. Everything can't be the Greenway.
Well, the Greenway is anything that's on road or off road. It's everything. Look at the map. Go and look at the map. All the different phases that your friend Jared. Yeah, that's like years of work.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give up that, because I think that really still is valid. All right, guys, we have 5 minutes.
I think Nels wants to say something.
Who?
Nels?
I just had a real quick question. You said that the DOT looked at the phase 2 and sort of okayed it, or at least said there was no major problem with it. Is there a specific document that they looked at? Is that the document that we called Complete Streets Policy Final Draft PDF?
No,
because when I looked,
that's the 90% design, which I don't think we have. Is that up online, Samantha?
No, no.
It's
I don't
not
think so.
DOT who said that. State Historic Preservation Office said they had no comments and they sent it to DOT. we still didn't receive an official final sign off from DOT. Once we get that, I will share that with everyone.
Okay, and when you do, could you just remind us which what's the document name that they did look at so that we all are looking at the
They
same?
looked at the 90% design drawings that are online, and then they requested some minor labeling changes and all that, which our consultant took care of and resubmitted. But that's about it.
Okay,
The 90% designs, Nels, the 90% designs are very close to what.
I can show you my screen as to where it is.
Okay, we have 3 minutes, guys.
Sorry.
So if you go to Town Hall, Town Departments, go to Planning and Zoning, and go to Current and Recent Planning Projects, and Phase 1 Implementation Drawings. We have all the
okay. 30, 60, 90. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, guys. If you spend some time on these, all of these documents are up there that I keep talking about. They used to not be. It's partly Susmitha who put up all this stuff when she came on. They were all lost in some back closet. So they're really there. I know it's hard still to read some of them, but it's better than what was before. All right, our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, January 5th. As far as I know, everybody who is here is continuing on. I have 2 people who I'm questioning whether they want to continue being on the committee, which if that happens, then we will move Joe and John into regular positions. But everybody here either goes to the year 24 or the year 25. So half of you go to 24, half of you go to 25. So everybody start thinking about what you want to do, how you want to contribute, and I'm looking for someone who will give me a closing.
Quick thank you, Harold, for running the meeting today. It was great, and motion to close.
Anybody second that?
Second.
Jim Simon. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Guys, have a great holiday. Have a great New Year's. We'll see you on the 5th. Email me if you have questions trying to find something.
Happy